Hello and welcome back to the channel for another video. Today's video will be on the New Jersey Devils and their potential to become the next dynasty in the NHL. Now, some of you may think that's a little crazy to talk about that this early, but I think it's a team I see potential in and a team I kind of believe in and I'm buying into the hype. Maybe not for this year in particular. As you saw, I put them in the dark horse category in my last video for Stanley Cup contenders. Go check that out. I was happy to see it hit over 100 views. And feel free to like and subscribe if you like the videos and the content, guys. We'll keep it coming. But what you see here from the Devils, and you see they have a lot of expiring contracts coming up, and a lot of their key players already signed. Now, some of the key players they don't have signed yet who are going to get raises are Jesper Bratt, who's having about a point per game this year. Timo Meier on the offensive side. They just got him in the trade. They're definitely going to sign him. And then you look at the defense, Damon Severson, Ryan Graves. They may re-up both of them. They may re-up one of them. I'm not quite 100% sure. It's a little early to think about that. And goaltending, they don't have a lot of money committed. So there's a lot of potential here in terms of roster movement and change over the next few years with key players who are going to be locked down. You go down to cap hit statistics here. You see projected cap space going into the offseason is $35.6 million, which is a lot of money to play with. And the only two players on there coming up that are going to get decent money are Timo Meier and Jesper Bratt, which neither are probably going to break the bank too significantly. Meier is probably going to get more than Bratt. Bratt will probably, I'd imagine, maybe will take a little less than he would had he hit the free market, but I expect both these players to stay. Also, Bratt's a RFA too, so that also changes it a bit. So he's probably going to sign for less than what he's worth, to be honest. Meier, on the other hand, also an RFA, so that's another thing to take into consideration here. It's going to be interesting to see how those play out in the offseason. But, like I mentioned, $35 million in cap space. Let's say both these guys take $8 million. Let's just say that just for fun. That's $16 million. You're down to about $19 million to play with after that. And you look at the stats this year, and you see a lot of key players are turning up. And sorry if that's a little bright, but every site with stats is kind of white. You see Jack Hughes, 76 and 60. He's finally staying healthy for the majority of the season. Missed a few games, but just a few. One of the most dynamic players in the league. He's in MVP talks. No one's in MVP talks but McDavid, but he's up there in terms of people who are getting talked about in that conversation. One of the most dynamic centers in the league, can create something from nothing, can score too, 36 goals. I think we all knew the playmaking was there, and we all expected him to eventually find the scoring touch, but the 36 goals this year, I think that's a little more than what most people expected. Dougie Hamilton, around a point per game. Nico Hischier, second line center, technically first. If you look at the lines here, technically you're first, but we all know where the New Jersey Devils get all their points, or most of their points, from Jack Hughes. So I just kind of consider whatever he is the first line, which think of that as you will. Nico Hischier, though, 59-63. Great production from a second line center, first line center. Jesper Bratt, 58-64. Dawson Mercer, 21-year-old player, 22 goals, 48 points in 64 games, emerging player who is very good. Thomas Tatar, solid production out of him. Then you get into the depth players, which I won't dive into too much. And you see right here, you got Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Dawson Mercer. That right there is 4 key players in your top 6. They then go out and they get Timo Meier, who's all the way down here because he's only played 3 games with them. But he was having quite a good year with the Sharks. And you look at Timo Meier this year as a whole, 53-60. So you have 5 of your top 6 players locked into like they belong in the roles they're in. So that's perfect. You probably want to add or hope to develop a player to take over this spot right here. To be honest, maybe I shouldn't disrespect Boquist. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, 15-54. You probably want to upgrade that position, or he can develop. How old is he? 24. Yeah, but nonetheless, you have most of your top 6 figured out and getting better for the most part and staying healthy, which is key. You then look at the D-core, which is very solid. Siegenthaler, solid defenseman. Dougie Hamilton, elite level defenseman. John Marino, Ryan Graves, solid. Damon Severson, Brendan Smith, bottom pair. You then look at really where what they need to go right here, and it's with prospects, which I pulled up 3 here. Luke Hughes is going to be that guy, I think. I watched a decent bit of college hockey, and there's no reason to think he can't be at the same level of player that his brothers are at. He's even got a little more size. He's about 6'2", 184. He skates so well. All the Hughes brothers, I don't know what they did growing up, but they know how to skate, and they skate very well. He's no different. 40 points in 34 games at the University of Michigan. Michigan is a very elite college hockey team, if you don't know. It's where Quinn Hughes played, and Quinn Hughes was also elite, put up probably better offensive numbers. But Luke Hughes, I think, has the ability to potentially be a better defenseman than Quinn Hughes just because of size, whereas Quinn Hughes, I think, will always be the better offensive player of the two. I think Luke Hughes has the potential to be the better two-way of them. You then look at another defenseman, and you see down here, or I'm scrolling and I'm not on screen share, but you see right here, like, you then have Simon Nemec, who was a second overall pick last year. Typically, you don't like to say a player is going to hit, but when you pick them in the top 5, you kind of expect them to. There's more of an expectation. From all reports, he's progressing very well. Might not be at the level to jump in the NHL for another year or two because defensemen develop slow. But both of these guys are going to probably be very good defensemen that you then, you go back to the Devils lines and you stick them in there. It's all of a sudden you have elite scoring up here with Jack Hughes, Timo Meier, Dawson Mercer's developing. And then you go back to the prospects and you have Alexander Holtz, who I think may also develop into a good scorer. And if they don't, if you can get Jesper Bratt, going back to salary cap here, if you get Jesper Bratt and Timo Meier on long-term deals that don't kill you, with the cap going up, there's a lot of potential to work around the edges here to create a filthy top 9 that could run over the Eastern Conference for I'm not going to say a decade, but you know what I mean, like a while. And I just see a lot of potential here. And there's other prospects in their system who aren't as notable as these 3, in my opinion, who could also pan out because the Devils weren't that great for a while, so they got some picks that could pan out. The defensive core looks like it's going to be very solid with Dougie Hamilton, these 2 young guys coming up, and other solid players who just fill roles that you need, like killing penalties, just playing depth role minutes. It's very good. The one thing that New Jersey really needs to get right here, and I think is the hardest part sometimes in the sport of hockey as a general manager, is to nail goaltending. Now, right now, I'm going to go back to cap friendly here. I'm hoping this is clear enough and big enough text for you to see. They got Vanacek signed for the next 3 years. He's okay, but is he the guy? I'm not convinced. I own him in fantasy. I'm not convinced about his. Last video I referenced my fantasy team. It's Shesterkin. One of my other goalies is Vitek Vanacek. Their only real notable prospect is actually on the team right now. It's Akira Schmid. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I sometimes butcher pronunciations. And he's on his rookie deal still, and he's been solid for the Devils so far. 926 save percentage in 12 games. He could be the guy, but that's a very small sample size to judge. So you got to think the Devils have some decisions coming up with the cap space. Their team being a contender now, as I mentioned, with them looking like they're definitely going to host a home playoff series, or I say host like it's a 1-game thing. They're going to have home ice advantage and get 4 playoff games. They're a contender already. And the biggest question with the Devils is goaltending. And it has been for the last few years. You have Blackwood, who looked like he was going to be very good, and now he's kind of not you're not really sure anymore. It's just kind of a mess there in terms of you don't really know who's your guy is going forward or who the best option is. You see like Blackwood and Bernier are injured. Like all these guys are, from what you've seen from Akira, Vitek, they're capable goalies. They're not terrible, but if you can lock in a elite goalie to this core, that's where you get into and I guess you don't even need technically an elite goalie to be a dynasty. The Blackhawks, I don't think anyone would say when they were a dynasty had elite goaltending. I believe the first goalie who won the cup with them was Antti-Niemi, and then Crawford won Crawford won the following 2. I believe it was Niemi. Yeah, it was Niemi. Yep. I was a little younger at the time, so give me a pass there. But there's so much potential with the Devils here. I feel like with the cap space they have, with the cap going up and the players they already have locked in, like you go back here to Like Dougie Hamilton, he's locked in till what year is this? 27, 28. That's a while. You then go to Jack Hughes, $8 million. You're getting a player who's a top 10 player in the league, in my opinion, till 2030 on $8 million. That is a steal. That is absurd that he's on that. He sure signed for another 4 years. So, and Palat is a great role player, great depth player. There's a reason he's won some cups. He'll stick around and probably be a key contributor to the depth role. And you just got to work around the edges here. Get some more depth scoring. Let your prospects develop, and the Devils are going to be in the contention for the next 4 or 5 years for sure. And the biggest thing they have to do here in the next offseason or just over the next few seasons is find the guy in net and let your prospects develop. And I think you could be looking at Devils Dynasty. So that's all I'm really going to talk about today with the Devils. I'm kind of curious on your in the comments if you'll leave your thoughts about the Devils and if you see the potential I see. Because you have some teams like the Boston Bruins who are getting older, the Rangers who are loaded, but they could be another factor in this too. Carolina's solid. I'm not really sure any team has the potential that the Devils do though, with their cap situation, money wise, their prospects. There's probably some other teams that could be in a conversation, and maybe Dynasty's like out kicking the coverage here. But I just see a lot of potential with the Devils, and I'm curious as to your thoughts. All right, so I'm going to end the video there. If you like it, leave a thumbs up. If you want to comment, I'll respond. And see you in the next video. Peace.